The number of Syrian refugees attempting to make it into the EU and the number who have died attempting to make it to the EU have both been rising in recent months. But what is perhaps more amazing than where they're trying to go is where they're not trying to go and why that is. We recently found out that in comparison to the huge numbers of people that are being allowed into countries like Turkey, like Italy, countries like that, the Gulf states have allowed 0 Syrian refugees in, which is amazing considering the sheer number of resources, the money they have, the capacity they have to help out people from Syria. So let's summarize what Amnesty International said about this. A 2014 report found that the 6 countries looked at had only 5 applications for asylum from Syrians that they considered, and they rejected them all. By contrast, Turkey is currently host to roughly 1.6 million Syrians, and Lebanon, a small country with a weak infrastructure, less capacity to actually take in these sheer quantities of people, is host to over 1 million, now a quarter of the country's population. That would be like us allowing in 125 million Syrians into America, to put it into perspective. It is amazing. And the 6 Gulf states...
75 million Americans, but that's okay. We don't often do
math. I'm bad at math. I'm bad at math, but a lot of them anyway. But those 6 Gulf states, which again, they have a lot of oil wealth, they have huge reserves in terms of cash, they can afford to help out these people. And as we're going to show, they're doing some things to help, but not actually bringing them in. 0. That is amazing.
So, I'm not a big fan of the Gulf countries, and this is among the reasons why. I mean, obvious reasons. We don't allow women to drive or vote, and if we allow women to vote, okay, we'll have 16 of them vote, as a recent story out of Saudi Arabia. If somebody writes a blog we don't like, we'll whip them in public and all of that, imprison them for 10 years. So, we have beautiful new architecture, we'll use slave labor for that, that'll be fun. Okay, so now, in this particular context, Turkey's a country of about 70 million people, roughly. They let in 1.6 million. That's
a fourth of their country.
No, it's, oh my God. Here you go.
I'm really bad at math. I'm sorry. I'm just the worst.
So that's an enormous burden to Turkey. So when Turkey turns around and says, hey, it's easy for you guys to talk about ISIS and are you doing enough and the problems in Syria, et cetera. We took in 1.6 million refugees. How many did you take in? Turkey says, right? But that's nothing compared to Lebanon. My God, a quarter of your population are now Syrian refugees. So yes, Lebanon has taken a little less than Turkey, but as a percentage, an enormous amount, right? So, and it's not like Lebanon was an enormously wealthy country to begin with. I mean, obviously it's had some issues in the past. There was a time when Lebanon was a wonderfully prosperous and great country, but it's been on
war.
Yeah, got destroyed by war a couple of times, right? So now, on the other hand, the Gulf countries have a ton of money, right? And some of them, like Kuwait, will let you in if you're a Syrian, if you're willing to work for really, really low wages and you're willing to build things for them. Okay, hey, congratulations, you'll get a pass to do just that and not to stay and not to be a citizen, okay? But the fact that people asking that are refugees, they haven't let any of them in.
It's amazing.
As they say, oh my God, the Syrian war, we care so much, blah, 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 blah. But don't bring them here, though. Not in my backyard. Not my back Gulf.
Yeah, not in the back Gulf. Yeah, and I mean, there's political similarity. Like that would be some explanation as to why they should bring them in. You would think religious solidarity in some of these areas. You would imagine that these countries that say they are so driven by their faith that would cause them to feel a little bit more charitable in terms of allowing people in. And honestly, at this point, in comparison to the Gulf, Kuwait's offer seems pretty good. It's horrendous. It's absolutely terrible. It's inhuman in a lot of ways, but in comparison to being forced to brave the Mediterranean and likely, as thousands have, die on the way, that seems like a relatively good deal in comparison. Now, as I said, the Gulf countries have done a little bit to help, just not actually bring the people in. In 2013, they gave a total of $910 million to help alleviate the crisis. And in 2014, Saudi Arabia gave more than $90 million to the UNHCR. Kuwait this week extended their long-term visas for Syrians working in the country, potentially affecting up to 120,000 Syrian migrants. But again, under the conditions that Cenk was talking about. And they have a long-term plan over the next decade to drastically reduce the number of overall foreign workers that they have. Not Syrians specifically, but it will certainly affect them.
So, yes, fair is fair. They did give money, okay? But in terms of actual human beings, they don't want anything to do with them.
Exactly, yeah.
So let's see if you really, and we look, one of the 5 pillars of Islam is looking out for the poor and the needy. I mean, are there people that are more needy in this world than Syrian refugees? Horrible picture just was in the media of a young Syrian boy who washed ashore, who was trying to, obviously get out of the country and then come through Turkey and was trying to get to Europe. And seeing him there on the shore, it's heartbreaking, right?
Yeah.
There's a story of dozens of other refugees dying inside trucks, etc. These people are desperate, and you don't take them in while you pretend to be all high and holy. Makes me question if you really believe what you mean.
Yeah, and here's the thing: it would be amazing, like if you're an outsider looking in and looking at the effect of the faith in this area. I mean, you have people who could help who apparently aren't driven by their faith to help. And the problems seem largely driven by, I mean, you can trace back earlier military and economic reasons for the instability in Syria, but a lot of it is religious extremism giving birth to groups like ISIS. It seems like the net effect of Islam on Syria has been pretty negative in this case. It would be nice to see some balancing from other countries that have the resources to do it. Now, I just discovered today that this was going on, but in the Arab world, this has been knowledge for a while, a year or two, the fact that they're not helping them, and there's been a lot of pressure on social media to force these Gulf states to do something, to act, to help people from Syria. There's a cartoon that's been going around showing a man in traditional garb pointing towards the door with the sort of representation of the EU flag, and the translation is there. Why don't you let them in, you discourteous people? That has been shared all over the place. The Arabic hashtag welcoming Syria's refugees is a Gulf duty has been used more than 33,000 times, which is amazing considering that takes up about a third of an entire tweet. But yeah, like they're trying to organize to get the Gulf states to do something about this. It's going to be interesting to see if perhaps the pressure actually works. These are the sorts of regimes, though, that are largely immune to that sort of international pressure.